Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the supportive viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald near Nyota, which is near Nauvoo, which is, as you can see, the Mississippi River in the background, right on the Mississippi River. We're north of Nauvoo about 8 miles or so. This is an interesting place to be because if you'd heard of the Icarians, which were a community from France who lived in this area for a brief time, and a man named Cambre, who was an Icarian, who built this house that dates to 1867. Well, was in that family for many years, and now it's in a different family's hands after many years. And we're going to talk to the most recent owner about this house and about the history of the house and about the Icarians and about Mr. Cambre and how all that ties together. Rebecca, it's a fascinating story. Your grandparents loved this house. They lived here for decades and decades, and then they passed away, and you liked it too, so you bought it.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did that come about?
Well, so it starts with my grandparents, of course. In 1979, the house and the property here went up for auction. And my grandmother, as a little girl, had come here to pick apples. And so when she saw the auction notice, she said she wanted to come see it and possibly buy it. And she came out here, and it was exactly the way she remembered it as a little girl. And she fell in love with it again, and my grandfather did too, and so they bought the farm here.
And that was in 79.
That was in 79.
In succeeding years then, they were familiar with the history of the house,
Yes.
and they actually got it on the registry of the National Registry of Historic Places, right?
Yes, they went through that process of putting it on the registry as an example of Icarian architecture.
Okay, Icarian art.
Yes.
And Mr. Cambre, the French Icarian, was a cabinet maker.
Yes.
So much of the wood that's in the house, we know that he built
Yes.
and milled and installed.
Yes.
Okay, describe this house for me, because people see this style house, but not usually in the Midwest.
Yeah, so this is a salt box style house. The story goes that in New England, there's a different tax rate for a two-story house. So when you look at it from the front, it looks like it was a one-story house. But when you actually walk around to the back, you'll see that it was a two-story house. And so you hope that the tax collector does not walk around to the back side when he's coming to collect taxes.
Okay, well, everybody's got a gimmick. Let's take a walk around there. Now, it's not a very big house, but Mr. Cambre had it full of people, didn't he?
He had 10 children.
Oh, my goodness.
5 of which were born here in the house. Or on the property, at least. So he actually bought the property in 1860, and then the house was completed here in 1867.
And he was a farmer, and he had an apple orchard, didn't he? That's probably how he made that in cabinet making. That's how he made his living.
Yeah, so this was a working apple orchard when he bought it, and then they had it as a working apple orchard until at least the 1940s. Now
we're going to see this from the inside, which is kind of a hoot. But all the houses that he built more than this house, didn't he?
He built 5 houses at least, and they all had this door in the second floor. There was no balcony. Everybody asks. It's the door to nowhere. So it's used for ventilation. So when I open that dormer window that we saw from the front and this door, the breeze that goes through here makes this house feel like it's air conditioned.
Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right? So it really works. I don't know why you didn't use a window. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's a joke.
Maybe, I don't know.
Just don't take that first step because you won't survive it.
It's a doozy.
Yeah. And even with the lower door on the back, it really does. It probably never really led to anything like a patio or a deck or anything like that.
No.
A great place to overlook the river, but I mean, nowhere to sit or nowhere to go, come out and enjoy it.
No.
Interesting.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so this is, let's see, is it 2 bedrooms?
Technically it's 3.
3?
There's the downstairs bedroom and the upstairs bedroom right above it, and then that big open room is a bedroom.
10 kids. Okay,
so I know, it boggles my mind every time.
You know, I mean, when you see where people were living in log cabins about the same time, and they were a lot smaller than this.
Right.
So, but I guess the next thing to do, now there's a number of things to do here today because they had, of course, they were a working farm and an apple orchard. So they had a barn that they need for animals and also for tools and stuff. they're close to a spring here.
Yes.
So they had a pump house. They had a pump house where they
Right.
could pump the water up and distribute it.
Right.
And they had a apple shed, right, which is now gone, but
Yes.
we can take a look at where that
Right.
was. And I'm going to guess that they had a lot of apple trees. Unfortunately, they're not still here because they have a limited lifespan.
Yeah, the apple
But
trees
they had
have
a lot of. They had a big,
Yes.
big orchard, didn't they?
Yes, they had a big orchard.
Mm-hmm.
My hayfield now would have been all orchard
Mm-hmm.
at one point. So like apple trees have a lifespan of 100 years. So when
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents bought this in 1979, there was only one apple tree left, and it
Oh.
was in very poor shape.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no more apples.
Okay. Well, let's take a look inside.
Sure.
After you.
Thank you.
Look familiar, huh? Did you play here a lot when your
Yes.
grandparent? Did you come out and play a lot?
Yes, we did. We spent a lot of time out here. So my grandparents lived on a property just 15 minutes away. So when we were at their house and it was a nice day, we came out here
Yeah.
to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's parts of this 1867 house are original.
Yes.
Obviously, the tile floor is not.
No.
But over there, that sink, or that
The cabinet base.
cabinet, right?
Yes, the cabinet base there is original.
And that would have been made by Mr. Cambre,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what he did. And if you look at the woodwork in here as well, like the window trim and everything, the
Yes.
door trims,
Yes.
it's all it was all made by him. I would like to have seen his workshop. I would like to have seen where would you think he had a workshop on this property?
Obviously somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not positive exactly where it was at, but
He might have been in the barn.
It might have been in the barn or the pump house, one or the other, would be my guess,
Yeah.
but I don't know for sure.
Okay. Another interesting aspect about this, not all of these older homes had full basements.
Yes.
And they stored their apples in many cases down there, didn't they?
Right.
Which kept them cool. They
Yes.
would last longer that way. This would have been a very small dining room for 10 people.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the dining room. I'm told that they once rented this out occasionally. So my lane here is actually part of the stagecoach route that came through here.
Is that right?
Yes.
From where to where?
From Nyota
Yeah.
to Frenchtown, which was at the end of my lane here,
Yeah.
an unincorporated town that's no longer here,
Huh.
and then on into Nauvoo.
I'll be darned.
So,
Okay. So if they wanted to, people could stop off here and get a meal, right? They'd feed them and make a few bucks, and off they'd go.
I would assume,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I know that they had definitely rented out this room to stay in.
Yeah.
But so I always point out the pegs. The pegs on the wall are an Icarian feature. So the Icarians had a large communal dining hall, and everyone had a numbered chair. And at the end of the meal, they would hang their chairs up on the pegs to reuse that large dining room.
Hey, this is a good time to talk about the Icarians a little bit because
Okay.
people keep hearing us use that term.
Right.
And they may not be familiar with this group. I'm going to
Yeah.
sort of distill it a little bit and then ask you to fill in the blanks.
Okay.
Around the time of the French Revolution,
Yes.
there was a man named
Etienne Cabet.
Cabet who wrote a book,
Yes.
The Road to Icary?
Voyage on Icary.
Voyage on Icary. Okay,
Yes.
so hence Icarians.
Right.
Or Icarians.
Exactly.
They left France when all the tumult was occurring, and they brought their popular. I guess it was like not a colony. It was more like what sort of a cultural mix was it?
Kind of like a commune.
Mm-hmm.
It was. They sold everything they owned and gave it to the society. And then they formed this big communal society where they all lived and worked together.
Mm-hmm. They left France.
Yes.
They came to the New World up the Mississippi River.
Yes.
And about that time, the Mormons at Nauvoo had disbanded.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So they needed a place for their community, and it was perfect timing, wasn't it?
It was. So they bought the property from the Mormons after they left. Most of the Icarian society was centered around Temple Square there in Nauvoo. So they had built large apartment complexes that were on Temple Square. And of course, those are no longer there.
Did they inhabit any of the Mormon buildings?
Yes.
Of course, those are all stone and brick, and they're in very good condition. So
Yes.
they would have used those.
They
too,
would have used those buildings as well.
while they were building their apartments.
Yes.
And their apartments may have looked something like this house.
Something like this.
Yeah.
They were one-room apartments. Everybody was assigned a room, and interesting.
So they were not really interested in making a lot of money, were they?
No.
They were more interested in the community remaining. It was very important that the community remained together. They took all their meals together.
Yes.
And they did everything together, I guess. And then when they had rifts in their society, that sort of tore the whole thing apart, because togetherness was the whole idea, right?
Right. Etienne Cambre took a group to St. Louis, and then a group went on to Corning, Iowa, and actually was in Corning, Iowa, active until 1899.
Oh.
And
So they probably still have some buildings there that they've preserved, don't they?
They do.
The Icarian
They
time.
do.
Interesting. Okay, well that's a 101 kind of on Icarians. So when we use a term, people know what we're talking about.
Right.
But that peg, that kills me. That's so funny, because I guess what that would do is, if you're going to clean up the mess hall, you get hang the chairs up so we can sweep, right?
Right. And then they could use the mess hall for other activities. I'm told they had dances. Dancing was a big thing for the Icarians. So.
Okay, now this, I don't know, would this have been a living room parlor, or would this have been a bedroom?
This would have been a living room.
Okay.
Yeah, this would have been a living room. So the fireplace there was not a working fireplace as you would think of it. They would have had a pot-bellied stove that sat in the middle of the floor there. But obviously, our woodworker.
The built-in wood is original.
Yes, all the cabinetry there is original.
Yeah, that's nice to have. Very nice to have. Yeah, you can see where the pipe would have gone up through
exactly.
the outside. And of course, then all the woodwork along the chair railing down is all really, really, really nice.
Thank you.
And now this room, it has a lot of the original features.
Right.
Now the floors in here is original, not in the rest of the house, but in here it is.
This is an original floor. However, my grandmother painted this in the 80s. She researched what would have been typical for that time period and hand stenciled all of this on the floor.
And she chose the colors that she thought someone from 1867 would have used.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
my
that's
grandparents absolutely loved history, and they loved antiques, and this was, like I said, she did a lot of research to figure out what would have been typical for that time period.
Good for her.
To
Good for
create
her.
this floor.
I'm sure she enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Now this behind you though, this was not an original feature.
No.
This was actually when your grandparents moved into this house, the outhouse was still in use.
Yes.
And so they needed to change that pretty quick.
Yeah, there was no running water here, and I had to use that outhouse, which there were some rather large spiders in there on the edge of the woods like that. Oh my goodness. So they didn't want to change anything here. That was a big thing for them. They didn't want to change anything. Yeah. So they put a bathroom in upstairs in an attic area. So they don't want to change the floor plan. They put that little attic area bathroom in the 80s. And then around 2000, my original stairs there got a little bit too much for my grandma. So she put this bathroom here downstairs.
All right. They were going to tough it out as long as they could.
As long as they could. And then so this is kind of like tucked into a corner unobtrusively. Okay. Well, but we have bathroom inside.
I'm glad for her sake she finally got her bathroom.
Yes.
Now we were talking about Mr. Cambre's woodwork.
Yes.
He made this too, didn't he? And this is one huge thing.
Yes. Yes. This is huge original cabinet built by Adolphe Cambre. And when my grandparents bought this house, all the furniture was sold out at auction. So this cabinet actually left the house. It was sold, which is, I have a hard time picturing as big as this cabinet is.
I don't know how you get it in and out. It looks to me like you have to build the house around it. But
it came out. And
it did come out, yeah.
Then when they found out what my grandparents were doing here with the house, preserving the history here, the cabinet was donated back to my grandparents. And it came back in. And my uncle says he has not very fond memories of moving this cabinet, and it will never move again.
They're glad to have it though.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
So excited to have it back.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, let's take a look at the steps, because those look like they've had a
are
lot of traffic over the years.
Those
had
are
a lot of traffic.
Original, obviously.
Oh yeah, yeah. Look how steep that stairway is.
Yes. And I love the wear on this. You can tell these have been well used. This is the original milk paint on the stairs here from the 1860s.
Yeah. Well, let's go up.
Okay, here we go.
Old stairs, old floor.
Yes.
Old house.
Yes. This is definitely the original floor up here.
You could tell. This is one big room, so I assume the kids probably would have just spread out here and slept
Yes.
on however they could.
Right. This would have been the kids' room.
10 kids. 10
Yeah,
kids all
that
sleeping.
just boggles my mind every time.
Yeah,
But
I know. Well, when you love your family, you stay close together.
for sure.
And probably the master bedroom. These windows all look original.
Yes. So these are all the original hand-blown glass. Obviously, we've had to replace a few, and
You're fortunate. You're fortunate to be able to have it.
yes, yeah, that's one of the most interesting features here, to think about all the original glass on all the windows.
Yeah. Okay, so I also want to take a look. It's a shock. It's going to be a shock to everybody that would say, okay, well, let's just go outside. And we saw this from the outside. The door to nowhere.
The door to nowhere.
Goodness.
Everyone asks
It's
about
that first step that gets you. Yeah, isn't that a beautiful view? Look at the river. Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah.
And you said that Mr. Cambre did a lot of research and a lot of traveling, and he built here because he said this was the prettiest place on the whole Mississippi River. Is that right?
Yes. He came to America from New Orleans and said he'd gone all the way to the beginnings of the Mississippi River and then had come back and decided that this was the most perfect view on the river.
Well, you're lucky to have it. And your poor grandmother, again, now she didn't want to change the place, but she had to have an indoor restroom and a bath, so she took part of the attic. Right.
She didn't want to change the floor plan. So this is this strange little attic bathroom that...
It's neat. It's neat.
It's cute, yeah.
And this, you really get a good view. Oh, this is one of his pieces too, isn't it? He made, and you called this a what?
I called this an apple bench. That's what I've always been told it is an apple bench. That supposedly sat out in the orchard. Put apple baskets underneath of it. So
good view from here too, because you can, if you use your imagination and you look out there just past the pump house and the barn, you can see that open area, and that would have been the orchard, huh?
Yes.
Hundreds of apple trees. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a hayfield now?
Yeah, it's a hayfield now. Yeah.
Wow, it's very pretty. Rebecca, your latest addition is this mammoth patio that you have overlooking this ravine. Now, the reason this is here is because under this is the foundation of the old apple shed, right?
So why this is so large is this is the size of the apple shed. So when we bought the property here, it was kind of sliding down this ravine, and we chose to take the apple shed down versus having it fall down.
Having it fall down, or have somebody get hurt playing in there and or they fall out. Yeah,
right.
Well, you can see how steep it is. My goodness gracious! If you got started, you'd finish for a long time.
Right. And after we took that building down and we were trying to decide what it was doing out here, I had everybody walked right up to the edge of this ravine, and I said, well, there has to be a fence.
Yep.
First things first, we will put a fence, and then we just decided to do this concrete patio. And this
if you look over the edge here, you can see that there's the old stone foundation of the apple shed. Boy, they built that thing strong, didn't they? It was going to withstand a lot of apples.
Yes, for sure.
This is very nice. This is really nice. And
Thank you.
Like you said, the reason it's so big is because it had to be.
Right.
Now there's a spring down there because I can see there's water running. I guess most of the year, but they used it, didn't they?
Yes, they did. So this is a natural mineral spring there. It's called Mormon Springs, and they use that water to water all of their crops and stuff. So they had not only the apple orchard, but a huge garden. When I show pictures,
fed the family.
Yeah. So they had a gas engine that actually pumped water up out of that ravine and took the water and put it in their pump house over here.
Mm-hmm.
So underneath the pump house is a 2,000-gallon cistern. And
Wow.
they would fill that up in the morning with water
Mm-hmm.
from the mineral spring, and then use that water in the afternoon to water
Mm-hmm.
all of their trees and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
garden.
And for whatever else they had a
Yeah.
need for water. Wow.
Right.
Can we take a look?
Sure.
They may have built this even before the house, you know, because you're going to need, if you're going to have a farm out here, you're going to have water. It's the most important thing. This may
Right.
be the oldest building
Right.
on the property.
So yeah, there's
There-
pump house. We use that for storage now, obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It looks like it's been used in the past as a workroom too. There's a workshop in there, a wood workshop.
Right.
But you can see the pump, and that goes down into the cistern that you were talking about.
Right.
Boy, this thing is held up pretty well when you consider 150 years.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. They don't build them like this anymore. They don't have to, of course.
No.
That's how that goes. Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this barn too while we're out here.
Yeah.
I imagine. I don't know when this may have been the second structure they built. Who knows?
Right. This one, we've done quite a bit of work to get it kind of usable.
And usable for what?
So when I bought it and tried to figure out what I was doing with it afterwards, I have had cousins get married out here.
Oh, okay.
So we decided to open it up for weddings. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, weddings.
And the house too?
Yes, and the house too. Mainly outside space, which I have a lot of outside space, as you can tell. But
Yeah.
we decided to kind of fix the barn up a little bit, so if we needed some inside space
Yeah.
for a wedding, we could
Nice.
do it.
If you wanted, if it were a nice day and you wanted to get married outside, boy, with that overlooking the river is a pretty spot.
Oh yeah, yeah, beautiful pictures for
Yeah.
sure.
And so this was when this was originally built. Of course, this would have housed whatever animals. They
Right.
probably didn't have a lot of animals, did they?
Not really. Obviously, a horse or two, and maybe a cow.
Yeah. Yeah. They had the chicken house. We
Yes.
knew they had a chicken house, so they
Yes.
had a lot of chickens.
They had a lot of
Yeah.
chickens.
And of course, they had the apple shed, but that was
Yes.
not. They were primarily hay and the apples, of course,
Right, right.
and the big garden.
Yes.
Yeah, and
the big
chickens.
garden and
A lot of
chickens.
chickens.
A lot of chickens. That chicken coop was rather large. And then, of course, now it's gone.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, huge chicken coop.
Sweet.
Yeah. So we put windows in to kind of give it a little more
Mm-hmm.
sunlight, natural light, and just
Rebecca, your grandparents lived here a long time, and they learned a lot about the property just from poking around and cleaning things and removing things, and hence they find this split rail fence, and you got to believe that it's been here as long as the house.
yes. So this property was pretty overgrown when they bought it. In fact, when they came out here for the auction, it was so overgrown you couldn't even tell it was on the river. And then this was all brush in this spot, and they found the fence when they cleared out the brush.
It's a beautiful view. I mean, this is really a nice piece. In this area, this mowed area here, this has been like this for a long time. This is their front yard, right?
Yeah.
It always was like this, huh?
Right, right. There would have been gardens. So I have pictures from the 1930s when most of this was all garden.
Oh,
But yeah, this view's pretty much been the same since the 1860s.
yeah, really, really nice.
Yeah.
And like I say, your grandparents, I think they would be, they didn't live long enough to know that you were going to buy
No.
this, did they?
No. After they passed away and we were discussing what we were going to do out here, we talked to, well, we're going to probably sell it. And
Yeah.
then trying to figure out, well, what would become of this? And that was I bought it to preserve it.
Yeah,
keep-
you didn't want to think about that because
No.
it might be a tear down. You
Yeah.
never know. Somebody might want to come in and they want to build a house right there.
Right. Because, I mean, for the Cambres, it was a big 3-bedroom house. For us today, it's kind of a small 3-bedroom house.
Right.
Right.
Well, thanks for showing it to us, and good luck with it.
Thank you. Thank you.
For your events and whatever else you may host out here. Best of luck.
Right. It's all about, for me, it's all about preserving the home and keeping the history out here alive.
Right. Well, it's on the National Register, so that's a great
Right.
place to start. As I told you earlier in the program, we're here near Nyota, which is north of Nauvoo on the river. You got a beautiful view of the Mississippi River here. And we got a chance to tour probably the oldest or the only Icarian home left in this entire area. With another Illinois story near Nyota, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.